the silence, moving without a sound, calling without a name. It waits beneath you, it waits within, a quiet current under the skin. Beginning, one wave without an end, one shadow passing through me, one impulse remembering. I follow the silence, I enter the deep. I gave it my sorrow, it gave me no peace. I released every question, I surrendered every name, everything vanished, but the pulse remained. Below the noise, the pulse remains. Below the name, the pulse remains. Below the light, the pulse remains. The pulse remains. The pulse remains. You Found me sleeping under your name, wearing the shape you taught me to claim. I carried your shadow, I answered your call, but something beneath me remembered it all. Sarabin, Saranox. Under the breathing, under the bone, there is a language I learned alone. I felt it turning slowly within, a body beneath me, a second skin. The first skin falls, the second remains beneath every face, beneath every name. Vela, Vela. The first skin falls without a sound. What I had buried is waking now. I loosen the silence around my throat. I open the chamber no one could know. I entered the darkness without a flame, and heard something answer before I spoke its name. Sarabin. It was not a stranger, it was not a ghost, it was the part of me I had hidden the most. It moved through my breathing, it moved through my veins. It wore no sorrow, it carried no chains. The first skin falls, the second remains beneath every face, beneath every name. Vela, Vela. The first skin falls into the ground. What I had buried is breathing now. Take the voice, take the face, take the memory, leave the trace, take the fear, take the name. I was here before they came. Before they came. Before they came. I touched the reflection, it opened its eyes. It carried no promise, it offered no lies. I stood without armor, I stood without shame, and watched my old body release my old name. No prayer could contain me, no hand could command. The shape I was given dissolved where I stand. The first skin falls, the second remains beneath every face, beneath every name. Vela, Vela. The first skin falls into the ground. What I had buried is breathing now. The second skin. The second skin. Skin. Sarabin. The knocks. The lumen. No eyes. No eyes. through a city that never looked back. Windows were open, but everything black. Faces were turning without any sound. Mouths forming questions, no one looked down. No witness above me, no shadow below. The streets kept on moving with nowhere to go. I have knocks, no eyes. I lifted my hand to cover the sun, but nothing was watching and nothing would run. The towers were breathing, the pavement was warm. A world without seeing still carried a form. The world with no eyes still knows where you are. It follows your breathing, it counts every scar. No eyes, no eyes. The world with no eyes still calls you by name. It waits in the silence and walks in your shape. I passed through a doorway that opened alone, a room full of mirrors reflecting no one. I spoke to the darkness, it answered in breath. It knew what I wanted, it knew what I left. There were no eyes upon me, still I could not hide. Something without vision was moving at my side. It entered my footsteps, it slept in my pace. It wore every absence, it borrowed my face. The world with no eyes still knows where you are. It follows your breathing, it counts every scar. No eyes, no eyes. The world with no eyes still calls you by name. It waits in the silence and walks in your shape. No face, no flame, no witness, no blame, no sleep, no sound, no heaven looking down. I heard knocks of illumin. Who are you when nothing sees? Who are you when nothing leaves? I stood in the center and opened my hands. The air moved around me like invisible sand. across the ceiling without leaving a trail. It wore no reflection, it carried no flame, but every loose ember was spelling my name. I followed it downward through plaster and stone into a chamber the house had outgrown. There on the table, still warm in the cold, lay all of the stories I never had told. I opened my mouth, no voice would arrive. The ash moved inside me and whispered alive. When the ashes breathe, do not call it smoke. Every buried word is a promise you broke. When the ashes breathe, do not turn away. The fire could not take has returned to stay. No grave, no sleep, no silence keeps. No door, no stone, no fire, alone. I read the last sentence, the letters turned red. It said what is buried is never quite dead. I looked at my fingers, the ash had become a map of the places I still could not run. The room filled with breathing, the floor gave a sigh. The house did not hold me, it opened its eyes. Rima, Rima, when the ashes breathe, I will call it home. Every buried word has returned through the bone. When the ashes breathe, I will not turn away. What the fire could not take has remembered my name. Rima, remember, I carried the ashes out into the rain. They rose from my hands and entered again. Not into the house, not into the flame, into my breathing, into my name. Rima, still warm, still warm. Rima, still warm, still warm. There's a door beneath the water where the light forgets to fall. I have heard it in the midnight, I have felt it through the wall. It does not open with a question, it does not answer to a name. It waits below the quiet surface, and every night it waits the same. I placed my hand upon the water. Nothing moved beneath my skin. Then the surface bent around me, and the room began to spin. Something breathed below the silence, something touched the other side. Not a face and not a body, only space becoming wide. There is a door beneath the water, there is a room behind the blue. Every shadow has a passage. Every passage leads to you. Do not wake me at the threshold. Do not pull me from the tide. There is a door beneath the water, and tonight it opens wide. I remember the pressure of your hand on the glass, a circle of warmth where a body had passed. I remember the rainfall still caught in your coat, but not how you held me or the sound of your throat. There are pieces that follow when the person is gone. Small movements still turning after movement moves on. A memory without a body still crosses the room. It sits in the chair, it disturbs the perfume. A memory without a body has nowhere to lie. It borrows my breathing to keep itself alive. To keep itself alive. The cup on the counter was turned toward the wall. A thread from your sleeve still remained in the hall. I touched it at midnight. The harmonium sighed. The room grew much colder, but nothing had died. I followed the imprint from doorway to stair. It ended beside me, then continued through air. No footsteps behind it, no face at the end. Only the shape of a moment unspent. A memory without a body still crosses the room. It sits in the chair. It disturbs the perfume. A memory without a body has nowhere to lie. It borrows my breathing to keep itself alive. Salt on the window, dust in the seam, heat in the pillow, weight in the dream, rain in the fabric, smoke in the hair. Nothing is with me, something is there. I tried to forget you, the room would not learn. I opened each window, the air would return. I emptied the drawers, I carried them bare, but absence has fingers it touches from there. Then I understood it, the thing that remained was not you beside me, not grief without name. It was all of the living that entered my skin, still asking for somewhere to happen again. So I stood in the doorway and opened my chest. I gave it one heartbeat, I gave it one breath. A memory without a body moved out of the room. It left the chair empty, loose in the perfume. A memory without a body passed under the sky. It carried my breathing, then gave it back alive. I remember you standing where I used to be? There was a window open behind you, curtains still moving after the wind. You wore my silence across your shoulders. You held the doorway I could not enter again. I knew the angle of every shadow, the narrow crack under the frame. But when you turned, the room moved through me. You had my body, you did not have my name. A spirit looking back, do you remember? A face inside the glass, do you remember? I left without a sound, but something stayed intact. A spirit moving forward, a spirit looking back. I followed morning into the hallway. Dust held the shape of where you had slept. You touched the table, my hand moved with you. You closed your eyes and something in me wept, not gone. You spoke to no one, still I could hear you. You said, I feel like someone has been here. I stood beside you, closer than breathing. You felt the cold but never felt me near. What did you carry that once belonged to me? What did I leave there that you still cannot see? Spirit looking back, do you remember? A face inside the glass, do you remember? I left without a sound, but something stayed intact. A spirit moving forward, a spirit looking back. The room remembers, the wood remembers, the glass remembers, the skin remembers. But memory is not a home. Then you look backward, straight through the window. Not at the street, not at the fading light. For one small moment, your eyes passed through me. The air stood open, the distance became slight. You raised your hand, I raised mine with you. The glass between us held neither side. I knew you felt it, not as a haunting, but as a current that never learned to die. A spirit looking back, I remember. A face inside glass, I remember. I left without a sound, but nothing broke in fact. A spirit moving forward, a spirit looking back. You keep the room, you keep the light, I keep the distance, I keep the night. at the edge of the candle where the light became thin. I saw my shadow kneeling with its hands folded in. It moved without my body, it bowed without my weight. Its mouth formed a question I had learned not to say. I stood behind the doorway, it never turned around. The room held every whisper but returned none of the sound. The flame leaned toward it, the walls began to fade, and something in the darkness heard the prayer my shadow made. The shadow prayed, but no voice came. The shadow stayed and spoke my name. It asked for nothing, it asked for me. The shadow prayed on bended knees. I crossed the room in silence. The floor was cold and bare. It lifted both its hands, but there was nothing there. I touched the wall beside it. My fingers passed through heat. The prayer became a heartbeat. The heartbeat found my feet. Then every step I carried was answered from below. My shadow moved before me to places I would go. It knew the doors unopened, it knew the words unmade. It carried every promise I was too afraid to save. Was it asking for forgiveness? Was it asking to be free? Or was it only praying to become the rest of me? The shadow prayed, but no voice came. The shadow stayed and spoke my name. It asked for nothing, it asked for me. The shadow prayed on bended knees. No altar, no flame, no heaven, no name. Still it prayed. Beside my shadow, the room became complete. Its hands returned to mine, its breathing matched the beat. It turned its face toward me, there were no eyes to meet. Only all the hidden hours I had buried underneath. I gave it every silence, I gave it every scar. It rose without forgiving, it knew exactly who we are. Then candle wall and doorway dissolved into the gray. My body cast no shadow, it had nothing left to pray. The shadow prayed and I became the voice it sought, the hidden name. It asked for nothing, it asked for me. The shadow rose from bended knees. No shadow behind me, no shadow ahead. Only the pulse of the words never said. found a room behind the night where nothing asked forgiveness. No door was marked, no candle lit, no sign that anyone had lived there. The floor was cold beneath my feet, the walls were warm beneath my hand. A quiet moved behind the plaster like water moving under land. I spoke the name I came to bury. The room returned a different sound. It carried all the missing letters and laid them gently on the ground. What the darkness kept was never gone. What the darkness held was holding on. What the darkness kept was breathing without air, waiting without movement, living without prayer. What the darkness kept had learned my hidden name. It followed through the silence and entered where I came. And entered where I came. I opened every empty cabinet. I pulled the curtains from the wall. Behind them hung the words I swallowed, still waiting where I let them fall. One carried anger like a fever, one carried sorrow without tears, one held the shape of every answer I had avoided all these years. I watched them gather in the center. They made no threat and gave no sign. They only stood in quiet order, each one unmistakably mine. What the darkness kept was not a curse. What I would not speak had learned the words. What the darkness kept was breathing without air, waiting without movement, living without prayer. What the darkness kept had learned my hidden name. It followed through the silence and entered where I came. I asked the room to take them. The room refused to move. I asked the night to hide them. The night had nothing left to prove. I asked my hands to carry them. My hands began to shake. Then every word rose from the floor and asked me to awake. I gathered every broken sentence. I placed them underneath my tongue. The oldest tasted like a warning. The newest still felt sharp and young. I spoke them slowly to the darkness. The room grew wider with each sound. The walls released their hidden breathing. The night released what it had found. No light appeared to save me. No doorway opened into day. But nothing waited in the corners. Nothing followed when I walked away. What the darkness kept was never meant to stay. It waited for a living voice to carry it away. What the darkness kept no longer knows my name. I entered through the silence. I did not leave the same. vera lumen. Annavi, Annanox. I found the veil where the night folds in, thin as a breath, cold as skin. I touched the edge, it moved through me, not like a doorway, more like memory. Behind the silence, something turned, a word without language, a flame that never burned. Vaelix, Annavi. I heard a river without any rain. I felt it moving through every name. The walls grew distant, the floor disappeared. Nothing was empty, nothing was clear. The veil remembers every hand, every promise, every strand. The veil remembers what we hide. It keeps the doorway on the inside. Annanox, Annavi. I stepped beyond it without moving through. The world behind me became something new. My shadow left me, my breath stayed near. The dark had a rhythm too deep to fear. I saw no faces, I heard no call, only the pulse moving under it all. What awaits beyond us was never far. It lived in the silence behind what we are. The veil remembers every hand, every promise, every strand. The veil remembers what we hide. It keeps the doorway on the inside. No heaven above me, no earth below, only the current I already know. No face before me, no voice behind, only the doorway inside the mind. I crossed the distance between breath and bone. I entered the hidden and found it my own. The veil did not open, the veil did not close. It moved like a question, only silence knows. I carried no answer, I carried no flame, but something within me remembered my name. The veil remembers every hand, every promise, every strand. The veil remembers what we hide. It keeps the doorway on the inside. On the inside. quiet line of gravity between the blood and breath. It never asked to enter, it never had to rise. It waited in the hollow behind my open eyes. I followed every low note down through the weight of night. The deeper that it carried me, the less I needed light. The silence has a pulse, it moves but makes no sound. It holds me in the darkness without pulling me down. The silence has a pulse, it lives beneath the skin. I do not have to call it, it already knows me within. I placed my fear above it, I laid my name below. The bass moved through the distance to places I could not go. No doorway stood before me, no hand was at my back. Only the low vibration inside the field of black. I felt the missing note there, a shape without a face. The 808 moved under it and filled the empty place. Nothing above me, nothing behind, only the rhythm under the mind. Nothing to follow, nothing to prove, only the lowest part of me moves. The silence has a pulse, it moves but makes no sound. It holds me in the darkness without pulling me down. The silence has a pulse, it lives beneath the skin. I do not have to call it, it already knows me within. I thought the dark was empty, I thought the deep was still. But silence has a body and everybody has a will. I thought I stood above it, a witness looking down. Then the lowest note passed through me and turned the world around. I let the current take me without a hand or wave. It carried every hidden word I never learned to say. It did not offer answers, it did not speak my name. It only kept returning until I did the same. And when I reached the center, there was no final door, only the sound beneath the sound I had been running from. The silence has a pulse, it moves but makes no sound. It holds me in the darkness and turns my feet around.